My name's Michael Budd and I'm a filmmaker. I'm an actor, producer and director. Well, it's a funny sort of thing actually because I went to school at Maroubra Bay High School. I was born in the eastern suburbs, 40 years old at the moment, and I grew up in the eastern suburbs, and after I left Maroubra Bay High School, a production moved into my school after my school had closed down, and it was called Heartbreak High. And I wanted an opportunity to be on the show, so I went down there and I auditioned, and unfortunately I didn't get a role. I just got an extras role, and I just chilled out on the set and met all the actors and did extra stuff as extra people do, you know, walked around pretending to be in the background, and I just loved it. And I was like, wow, this is so cool, and it's all I want to do. I want to do this with my life. It's great. And you know, I made some good friends down there. Alex Dimitriadis, who at the time he was the lead guy in the show, and I just loved everything about it. And then years went by, and I had my own band, and I was sort of getting bit parts, and nothing was ever happening for me. And then out of the blue, I get a phone call from a production company called The Burley Man. The Burley Man said, oh, we've seen your photos online. We're interested in using you on a film called The Matrix. And they said, have you heard of it? I said, yeah, that's a big film. I'd love to do that. And they said, oh, well, it's called The Matrix Reloaded, and we're making the 2 and 3, which is Revolutions as well. We'd like you to come down and meet the cinematographers and the directors, and yeah, they're thinking of you as a body double and stand-in for Lawrence Fishburne. And I was like, wow, I know a bit about Lawrence Fishburne, but I didn't know that much. So I started researching, and it was like a huge production that had come into town. It was in Fox Studios. They were spending nearly a billion Australian dollars on this project, and I got down there, and the first day I remember all the lights and the huge sets that were so tall, skyscraper sets. And I got down there and I saw these two guys. One was like a sort of a balding, chubby guy, and then one was a little skinny guy with glasses, and that was Andy and Larry Wachowski. At the time, Larry wasn't Lana, he was Larry. Later on he had a sex change and became Lana. And that was the Wachowskis, and they came over and they're like, no, I don't think he's right. They looked at each other and go, I don't know, I don't think he's right. And they did their thing. And then this brilliant cinematographer came over who later went on to become my close friend. His name was Bill Pope, and he's done a lot of the big films. He's a fantastic cinematographer. He goes, you know what, I think this guy could be okay. He's got the right bone structure. And you know what, Lawrence is wearing these little slides at the moment. Why don't we let Lawrence come down to, when Lawrence arrives in Australia, let him meet up and see how they get on. So I was like, the next few weeks were like, oh my God, I was so nervous, dripping in sweat, like thinking about, oh my God, am I going to get this part? Am I going to get this part? I was practicing in the mirror. I didn't know what I was practicing. I knew I had to stand on the spot. I knew I had to turn here. I had to pick up a sword, shoot a gun, whatever they need me to do. I was going to do it, you know. And I don't think many people have ever rehearsed to be a stand-in, but you know, I did. So I was rehearsing, and I just did everything I could, but I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to go down there and I'll be myself and show them that I'm enthusiastic and I really want the opportunity. So I went back down to Fox Studios and I met with Lawrence Fishburne, and we got along really well, and he said, you know, you look a lot like my son, and you know, I'd love to work with you. I think you'd be great. Your enthusiasm is infectious. And after that, I got my first real job in Hollywood. And I was a stand-in and a body double for Lawrence Fishburne, and that continued for 250 shoot days. And whilst I was doing that as an actor and a body double, things just were never the same. I was working with great people, and from there, it just kept going. Well, basically, you know, going back to being on set that day, I wanted to become an actor, and I wanted to start making my own films. And I didn't know much about acting or filmmaking, but I was watching intently, and I used to follow the director's work every day. I'd make a diary, do all their shots, follow their shot list, and just know their work inside out. Then I said to Lawrence, I want to become an actor. How do I become an actor? How does one become an actor? You know, you can't just act and then say I'm an actor. He goes, well, if one wants to become an actor, you must do Shakespeare. You should go to London and learn Shakespeare. So a few years later, I packed my bags and I went to London, and I studied in a conservatory for 3 years as an actor doing the Meisner technique, and I studied as an actor, and I did many plays on stage doing Shakespeare. I performed Othello. I played Othello in the West End. I did many plays, and then after that I started getting into the filmmaking. and I started doing short films for Westminster Arts Library, grime videos, really cool stuff, street stuff, which I was really into at the time. And that was going really well. And then one day I hooked up with this guy who said, I've got a script here and you look like a guy who could produce it. And the script was called Life of the Party, and I was like, oh, yeah, I could give it a go. I could produce this movie. And after a period of time, it was a long process. I realized it's going to take a long time to make this movie, getting all the things. So I returned back to Australia, and the guy that wrote Love of My Life, I said to him, we need to do something different. We need to do something which we can hit with impact. Why don't we do a horror thriller? And then that way we're no longer first-time writers, no longer first-time directors, no longer first-time producers. We're none of those things. We've made a movie. So in a short amount of time, 3 months, we developed a screenplay, made a screenplay, shot a screenplay, and within 12 months we'd sold it to America. Well, I just really was focused on making a calling card. You know, I wanted people to know what I could do. You know, anyone can say, yeah, I can make films, I've got potential, I can do this, I can do, but you got to show people, you got to have what they call in Hollywood a calling card. You know, I'm the guy who made Love of My Life. You know, that's my calling card. People say, what can you do? I can easily show you now. And I felt that was really important to get to the next step and to make the bigger projects, which I'm really interested in making. Well, I worked with Steve Arnold, who is one of the country's leading cinematographers. He's been nominated for many AFI awards, Cinematographer of the Year. He's got a couple of Primetime Emmy nominations. He's a fantastic, older, established cinematographer. And here I am, a young, up-and-coming young director on a project. So I said to him, look, I want to shoot it for theatrical. I want to shoot this thing in 5K. Turned out we ended up shooting in 4K, which is slightly smaller format, but actually we did shoot in 5K actually, and then we ended up cutting it down to 2K. But the real interesting thing about it is those dynamics of having to work with a more established cinematographer, but we went in with a real strong vision. We were going to shoot this in an old abandoned hospital. We were going to shoot it with really dark color. We were going to make certain rooms really fluorescent in color and green. We were going to take dark, steely colors. I was really interested in sort of tapping into some really old films like Existent, which were on the Sci-Fi, where the costume was really dulled down in grays and greens. And so you don't see a lot of color in my movie, and that's a style choice. Well, I mean, that was one of the big things here. To find an old abandoned hospital was very difficult. To get approved to shoot in one was even harder. It took quite a long time, maybe 6 to 8 weeks of just shuffling paperwork back and forth with the New South Wales Health Department to allow us to shoot. We shot in an old abandoned hospital with no running water that had previously been closed down due to golden staph. It was really hard. We had to bring in portaloos. It was always so hot. We had no electricity. We had to use generators. It was a real tough grind. And many of the crew ended up thinking they had golden staph because they became so overwhelmed in the space. It was so dark, but they were fine. The next day they came to set, they were fine. But it was a real set. And I think, you know, if you are going to make an independent film and you are going to go for something stylized, try to keep it real. You know, building sets is good, but once you immerse people on location, things get really interesting. Yeah, I mean, really the directing is done. People always say, oh, I'm a director and I'm there and I'm directing it, and all. The directing's it's done before you get there. You know, when I arrive on the set, I already know we've got boom from here, boom from there, boom from here, there, we're shooting that, we'll slide here, these are my shots, right? Cinematographer might turn around to me and he might say, I got these shots, what do you think of these? And so we'll talk. We'll sit and we'll come out with, we might use some of his shots, we might use some of my shots, we might use a combination, but we'll have these little mini battles for the sake of the project, and the project's always number one. So a lot of the times, I already knew what we were going to do, and all I needed to do was to set it up, and I had trust in everybody around me, and then I'd just slip in and I'd play the actor. The difference from acting for myself rather than acting for another director is I don't have the expectation or fear of performance. You just get in and you be and you just do, you know, and it is what it is. And that's the thing, you know, it's subjective, it's art. The work that I do as an actor, it's the work that I do. It's not, it's not something that I'm not really worried about. I'm worried about performance. I want performance to be great, but I just don't have that stress of someone trying to interpretate my performance and then give me feedback on how they want it to go. Look, I've worked with, the good thing about being an actor is I've worked with a number of directors. I worked on The Cold Light of Day with Bruce Willis, Sigourney Weaver, Henry Cavill. I worked under Mabrouk El Marachi, who had a smash hit with JVCD, and he's a Moroccan director, and he used to just get in quite freestyle. He'd just sort of play it by ear. I was told of some other directors that do the same thing. Me, myself, I prefer to have a shot list. So I prefer to go through each scene and really lay out a shot list. That then becomes the shot list for the day, which the first AD can hand around to everybody, so they know exactly where every setup should be, and that's how I prefer to work. I actually prefer to work, I've worked with a lot of directors and they don't do that, and that's fine. I start visualizing exactly my angles and exactly how I want to shoot it, and I have a very set shot list. And then once we're there on the day, we have time to move things and to do different things, but there is definitely a shot list in place. Yeah, being myself as an actor and studying the Meisner technique of acting, which is all about observing and responding, being in the moment, repetition. So, you're wearing a shirt, I'm wearing a shirt, we'll repeat, you're wearing a shirt, I'm wearing a shirt, and we do a lot of this repetition work. And I find to immerse my actors in, I like them to spend a little bit of time together just acknowledging each other's presence. Looking at a twinkle in the eye, looking at an eyebrow, looking at the teeth, looking at immersing themselves in everything, just to really acknowledge each other. Because the one thing I don't like is I've got one actor here generating his own stuff and one actress here generating her own stuff. I want them to kind of bounce off each other, and I want to see that pull back and forward between, and that's when I think you get real performance. So what we would do are things like a little bit of repetition work, a little bit of just taking time to talk to the actress. What's your favorite color? I like blue. Oh, you like blue? Just get in that moment, and then the dialogue, it just floats on the top. It's like a canoe. So it doesn't matter what I'm saying. I'm cooking a lamb roast today with you, and it's mashed potatoes. Whatever that dialogue, as long as we have that observing and responding, and that where the ball, the imaginary tennis ball, is going back and forward, it's always going to lead to good performance. Well, the first film, I wanted to be involved in the editing process, so I was right there beside the editor. I put all my trust and my faith in him. I liked what he was doing. He ticks things off with me and said, Ryan Maguire was his name. I actually met him at London Film School, and he lives in Los Angeles, and he came over to cut the film. So the film was cut by an American. It was made for an American audience. And I left a lot of faith in him, and I think he did a great job. He was great to work with, and editing is something that I would like to experience a little bit more and learn a little bit more about. But to answer your question, I kind of let the editors do their thing, and then they just bring it to me and say, "It's what I've done," and I either go, "I love it," or I go, but at the end of the day, you've got to trust in your team. And when I work with people, I think that all my departments are extremely important. My makeup department, my production design, my editors, my cinematographers, my grips. I just think I can't do it without them, and I keep telling myself that through the whole process until I finish the shoot. Well, the first big challenge was to find the money. And I think if you talk to a lot of filmmakers now, it's probably what they're all going to say. The money, where did we get the money from? Look, I think there's great potential for Australian filmmaking here. I think there's a very good potential that we can have a very good industry here. We just need producers to produce and directors to direct, or directors and producers to do both, and writers to write. We don't want to dilute what we do, So in my position, I was a director and I was a producer, so I had to raise the money. I had to inspire people about what I was trying to do. I had to explain to them the importance of keeping an Australian film industry. I just think we can't die off. There's definitely a gap between the people making the big films here in Australia and the independent network. When I was in London, there was a very cool, quirky group of people, a whole group of people across London making independent film. And they even had grants for around $100,000. I think they're called the Microwave in London, where you can make a film for $100,000. Look, here's the same. We can make good films for $200,000, $250,000, you know. I know that's a possibility. But at the moment, probably the government structure is not set up for an independent filmmaker. You know, for instance, if you wanted to get a rebate, you know, on money spent on a film, you would need to spend over $550,000 or $500,000. Now, that's not ideal if you want to make a film for $250. You're kind of left in no man's land. So we need to do things as an industry to get that in line with all these great young filmmakers. But in the meantime, to get the money, I just went and talked to people. I told them what I'm doing. And that's all you can do. You need to talk to as many people as possible. You need to say, I'm passionate about this, I believe in this, and I want you to come on this journey with me. And I was fortunate enough to meet some great small local businesses who were behind independent filmmaking. The Pollitz Martial Arts Gym, I had a bit of martial arts in the movie. They got involved, they put some money in. I had SMAI, it's a clove brand. They put some money in. I had All Civil, which is just a local, you know, great guy named Frank Manor, who owns his own building company where he digs up dirt for a living. He put some money in. He's like, yeah, I believe in this. You know, this is what we need to be doing. And so he put some money in. I had another guy, Vernon, who was a producer who passed away now. He had some extra super funds. He chucked that in, you know, which is, it's sad, you know, that Vernon's not with us anymore. But we had another couple of guys. So it was just all a bunch of people who believed in the arts and believed in independent filmmaking. And us as filmmakers, we need to go and inspire people. And it just doesn't start on the screen. It doesn't start by saying, I've got a film and it's going to be great. You know, you've got to inspire the people around you. And then once you're on the set, every single day, you've got to bring the energy up and you've got to inspire everyone to get through the day, to make it, you know. And then once you've made it, you've got to inspire everyone to buy it, you know. So it doesn't stop. And that's what we need. You need to see things through from the beginning to the end. And I overcame my adversities by just picking up the phone and just telling people about what I was doing. And you know what? A lot of times people slam the phone. Money on, put money in a film. What? Film? I won't make money from that. Sometimes it's not just about making money. It's about, you know, leaving things behind. It's about for the next generation. It's about passing knowledge on. And that's how I went about it. But I'm sure everybody, you know, has their own ways. Yeah, well, I mean, I had a very tricky location, I must say. No running water, no electricity. You know, we basically had to use generators. We had to bring in portaloos. Staff got sick because with no running water means no clean hands. Germs are passing pretty quick. The building that I shot in was in an old Orange Base hospital, which had been closed down for many years. And it was haunted. I can tell you honestly, it was haunted. We had at one time a phantom clapper. So I'd be filming something and we'd hear, cut! And everyone would cut. And I'd say, what happened there? I didn't call cut. Did you call cut? You call cut? Did you call cut? No, I didn't call cut. We had a phantom cutter. So we had a voice out of the blue whilst we were filming that would call cut right in the middle of a take. And people would cut. Steve would cut. It would be amazing. And one of the actors actually took some photographs of some rooms and they looked to be a presence to me. But you could feel it. It was cold when you walked in the rooms. It was cold, and that was tricky. But we had police visiting, you know, checking in to make sure it's all above board. That, you know, they're hearing screams because we were doing horror, you know, so they're hearing screams. And neighbours were complaining. We let off the fire drill people one time, and the fire truck came down, and that held us back and delayed us. And we had a lot of tricky situations. Sometimes we were in a very small room. We had to literally cut holes into the roof to get the camera up to create the shots we wanted to create. But we did something special, and I know that the people that were involved in this project, you know, and were part of it, you know, they know that we had some very special days and we achieved something very special. Look, as I said earlier, I'm a true believer that you need to just do the work yourself. You've got to film. The funny thing is, Americans, American distributors and sales agents, they're happy to talk to filmmakers. But as a filmmaker, you don't need a sales agent straight away. You don't need to form these partnerships straight away. What you can do is you can actually go and sell your movie yourself to distributors. You can say, hey, I've got this great film, would you like to take a look at it? And you know what? They will take a look at it. But you've got to be prepared, as I was, to send out 30 emails every day, links to the movie, who's involved, what you did, why you should be heard, what drove you to make the film, what the film's about, and get it in front of those people. And then you know what, you might send out 100 emails and maybe 3 people come back to you and say, hey, I'm interested in what you're doing. Tell me a bit more about it. And you know what, if it doesn't work out and they don't want to take your movie and sell it for you or distribute it for you, that's fine, because you've opened up dialogue with them. And now you've understand how they talk and what they want to hear as a distributor. So you learn lingo from them. So then you're able to actually, on the next call, say, yeah, I'd be looking for a deal that's structured with a 70-30 split. I'd be looking to sell all territories, America and Canada. I give you these rights. For instance, what I was able to do is I was able to make that work, do that work, put out 30 emails every day. And then all of a sudden, I found a very big company, a top 500 company, which distributes digital film. And I opened up communication with them. And I was lucky enough that they loved the film. And they launched it on every platform: iTunes, Google Play, Netflix, Hulu, everything you can imagine in America. And they did a big release for me. Now, those checks that start coming in, they're not massive amounts of money, but they'll be constant. And they're deals that you did personally. So you, as a small independent production company, you don't have to pay 25% to a sales agent. You did that deal yourself. So if you're only getting a check for $1,000, you don't have to pay a sales agent $250 because you did the deal yourself. So those checks come straight back at you, and they're coming in for 3 to 5 years, and that's how you sort of get yourself back in the black. Then you've got to start thinking about other territories. A lot of people, when they make an independent film, they forget about films in other languages. So you need to make sure you've got all the layers of the tracks off so that you can then lay down different languages. It's fine to put captions over in foreign languages, but they don't want that. People in Germany, they actually want the film to be in German. So you need to be able to lay all the tracks and the effects and the music down on separate tracks so they can lay German over the top. My film's been very successful in Germany, but I had to make that extra step to pay that extra money to make sure that the film was off English language, which a lot of filmmakers think, I'm just going to make a film and that's it. A distributor's going to take it, they're going to turn it into German, they're going to turn it into this. These are all the prepped areas that you need to think about in your delivery at the end of making the film. Well, a theatrical release is either a film that performs outstandingly in a forum such as Cannes or any film festival where it gets ovation, and then therefore it will get a theatrical release around the world. Another form of theatrical release is via having names in the cast, A-list actors, which are well known, that also gives you an opportunity to get a theatrical release. So for our movie, we didn't have any of those things. So we just had, a great film, gritty horror film, and the best platform for us was digital. So, you've got to look at the investment as well. If you've only spent $150,000, $250,000 or $350,000 on the film, you need to make sure that if you want to release theatrical, you have names to sell it. Because if you go to a distributor and he takes on your film to put it into the theaters, and then it does no money, then all of a sudden you're going to be behind with the distributor. And then he's going to have to recoup his money from DVD and digital sales. So don't take a theatrical release on unless you're 100% sure that you'll be able to recoup the funds. So it's a bit of a tricky thing, but for us, we went digital and we're quite comfortable there. Just keep the good faith going. Believe in what I'm doing. Trust my instinct, trust my gut. Try to work with better stories, That's the aim, is to tell even bigger, even better stories. Hopefully get access to bigger budgets to create more interesting things. You know, I like to explore creative territory. You know, I like to explore artistic territory, work on different creative visions, but I try to stick within my means. I have a long-term plan of making films, and so I think that there's probably going to be a general progression in size of film that I take on, and budget, etc., and cast level. But one of the things I learnt, the most thing that I learnt from making a film, is that everybody's important. Everybody. The minute you slip on one person, the minute you let one person down on your set, that's really gonna be like a little ball or a little wave that just keeps rolling down the hill and becoming bigger. And so you really have to make sure that you trust in that. And that's one of my biggest things in making a film. I really focus on letting everyone know that they're all important, because you can't do it without the people that you're working with. You can't do it without great crew. You can't do it without your cast. You can't do it, you know, even someone editing your film, even someone finishing your film, even someone doing the artwork, the poster, you know, someone doing makeup, someone doing hair. They're all so important to you. And that's, I think, where a lot of filmmakers may get let down, is that they're not thinking about everybody. And that's important. Just make sure you think about everybody, because, you know, the same people you see on the way up are the same people you see on the way down. Well, I'm set to direct a movie called Live for the Party. It's a comedy drama by the same writer. I'm working with the same cinematographer again. So far I've got attached Vinnie Jones, who's quite well known in the UK. Wallace Shawn, who's a fantastic character actor. He's known for his voice work on the Toy Stories, and he's Clueless. He was one of the main guys in that. And we've got there Ralph Macchio, who was an 80s star, the Karate Kid. And we're looking to shoot that in Louisiana. The budget for that is $10 million. And we've got a sales agent involved, and we're making great momentum on that film. We're just pushing on. We're still casting it at the moment. I've got a film coming out which I starred in called The Half Dead with Timothy Boyle, another filmmaker that you guys know well and is a great filmmaker, and we hope good things for that project. So as an actor, I'm still doing work. I've been asked to direct another film in the UK recently, and I'm just in negotiating on that. And I'm writing quite a few stories at the moment, quite a few Australian stories. So I'm hoping to do more stuff in my home country. Look, I don't know if, look, what I say is, what everybody else is doing, I'm going the other way. You know what I mean? What everyone else is doing in the market, I'm running the other way, and I'm trying to do what I want to do. You know, it's like, if you want to make good TV, don't watch it. You know, you want to make good films, don't watch them. You know, you want to make good art, don't watch it. You're going to be too driven by what other people are doing. You need to go in there fresh and do your own thing. Now, you know, with my film, I took a lot of risks, you know, because I was in that pocket where I was comfortable to do that. You know, I wasn't a work for hire. I was an independent filmmaker. I was making my own stuff. You know, I wasn't under anybody's own remit. So there are times to change, you know, where you may be a work for hire and you may have a remit that you have to work to, and you got to follow that the best that you can for your client. And you do that, that's fine. But when I'm making independent stuff, if everyone's doing that, I'm going the other way. Because I'm not trying to do stuff for now. I'm trying to do stuff for like forever, like that people, I mean, I want to, you know, it's a tricky thing. When people make music and they want to make hit records and stuff like that, you know, there's stuff that becomes number one, but then there's like, you know, Michael Jackson's Bad, or Sexual Healing by Marvin Gaye, or, you know, there's these tracks that, you know, they're forever, you know. That's what I strive for. I strive for the forever stuff. I wouldn't say I wouldn't not do that. I just don't currently have a horror film on my slate, you know. Most of the films I have at the moment are action, sci-fi, and comedy. I don't have a horror. If someone brought me a good horror film, I haven't written a horror film. I'm currently writing a story about a guy who wants to get away from his drug dealing family, so he goes to a country town and buys a pub, and then he starts training the local football team, and then you know, the town falls in love with him, and then his past comes back to get him, and then the town rallies around him. It's a heartwarming story. It's kind of the stuff that I want to do. And I think when I make films or if I act in films, they're just, you know, I love acting as well. And if I see someone's script and I go, oh, I just love it, I want to do it, I just do it. I don't preconceive what will happen. Tomorrow maybe I'll get a horror film. Now that you said, someone call in and say, hey Mike, I got a great horror film for you, you know, and I got $20 million to make it. No, I don't know. Who knows what the future brings? I hope for my horror fans' sake, I have a lot of horror fans, that I do get to do another one for them, but we'll see.